Hello everyone, this is Lord Kurnion, and I am back with another battle report. This was the same day as my previous battle report between me and Malasar. There was another player there that was in the Escalation League. He was bringing out Ogres, and we're like, hey, let's just have a game. So I took out the same list, and he took out his Ogre army. So here are the lists. Mine is the same. It consists of a Bloodthirster, 15 Bloodletters, 5 Fleshhounds, 5 Furies unmarked, and a Skull Cannon. And then my opponent's Ogre army. He had a Butcher with Grut Sickle, 6 Iron Guts full command, 6 Bulls full command, 6 Lead Belchers full command, a Solo Saber Tusk, and an Iron Blaster. So looking at this list, you know, I think my Bloodletters can do pretty well here. Basically, I need to get the charge. Against Ogres, it's doubly important because I need to prevent him from getting his impact hits, as well as me getting +1 strength on the charge. My Bloodthirster, I need to take care of his Iron Blaster as soon as possible so my Bloodthirster can have a better chance of surviving. I think once my Bloodthirster gets into any of his units, that unit is going to be taken off the board pretty quickly. So I want to get my Skull Cannon, basically to hopefully get open shots at his Iron Blaster. Failing that, I'm going to send my Fleshhounds chasing after the Iron Blaster, get rid of it as quickly as I can. Until then, the Bloodthirster will be hiding behind some Impassable, hopefully. And yeah, so I'm going to try to go from there. So we rolled up scenario, and we got the diagonal deployment, meeting and engagement. And so he lost the roll-off, so he was deploying first, and he deployed like you see. Going left to right, he has his Iron Blaster, his Bulls, his Lead Belchers, and his Iron Guts. 2 units, he rolled 1, so they're coming in as reserves, and that was his Solo Saber Tusk and his General Slaughtermaster. So I got the full advantage of being able to deploy based on what he's doing, so I was going to take advantage of that. Over here on this far flank, as far to my left as I could possibly put them, I put my 5 Fleshhounds. This is directly across from his Iron Blaster. The whole idea was put pressure out here on this flank, basically force his Iron Blaster to turn to deal with me. And if he fails to do that, then I might get a nice easy flank charge with my Fleshhounds into his Iron Blaster. And if that happens, I have a really good shot of just dropping it. I think my Fleshhounds, weapon skill 5, strength 5, I think they can take off the Iron Blaster. At the very least, they'll probably win combat, which will, send him running, most likely, because he doesn't have a BSB. And then here, closer towards, I guess, left middle, I have my Furies right there behind that piece of Impassable. I also have my Iron Blaster, or my Skull Cannon, rather, also back there behind the Impassable terrain. We ruled that it is blocking line of sight and otherwise acts as normal Impassable terrain. And then just beyond that, I have my 15 Bloodletters. Off the board, I rolled a 1 for my Bloodthirster, so fortunately for me, he is starting off the board. So he doesn't have to worry about cannonballs, which is nice. I didn't win the roll-off for first turn, so my opponent gets to go first. The Saber Tusk comes in and moves up 8 inches there, and otherwise things move exactly as you see it. So I think the Fleshhound, or I think the Saber Tusk was a huge mistake putting that there. Basically, with where he is, my Fleshhounds have a 9-inch charge into the Saber Tusk, and if I make that charge, I then can step forward and go into the Iron Blaster's flank. I think there's like 3 or 4 inches between them, so I have a really good chance of getting the overrun into that guy. So I thought that was a huge mistake, and that's one that I'm going to try to capitalize on. Otherwise, the Bulls move up. The Lead Belchers move up as well, 6 inches. I forgot to mention, when I deployed, I made sure my Bloodletters were 30.5 inches away from his Lead Belcher, so he had to move up, and he won't be in range to shoot me, to shoot my Bloodletters first turn, which would be nice. And otherwise, his Iron Guts also moved up a full 12 to kind of close lines to me. So that's kind of how it looks at the end of the turn. At the top of the image, you can also see his Butcher coming onto the table, a full 6 inches, starting to move back towards his line, hopefully hop into something. Magic phase. Dice were pretty big. He got off both the 4-up regen on this gut unit as well as +1 strength. I really didn't care about either one of them. I used all my dice to try to dispel the second one, but I failed to get it. It doesn't really matter at this point. It's early enough in the game that that unit isn't going to be seeing combat, and neither of them remains in play, so I really don't care. His lead belchers were out of range of everything except for my skull cannon. They could just see part of it, but I definitely had hard cover. So shooting at -2 for hard cover, he didn't get any wounds through. His Iron Blaster didn't have anything good to shoot at either, so it took a line at this unit of Bloodletters. It hit 3, did 3 wounds, and I passed 1 ward save, so 2 guys dropped. So Daemons turn 1, so I took that charge, the needing a 9 into his Saber Tusk, and I made it, so that's huge right there. Like I said, it's about a 3 or 4 inch overrun. I think it's a 4 inch overrun, and I careen into the flank of the Iron Blaster, which is pretty much should take the Iron Blaster off as well as Saber Tusk, which is huge. And otherwise, I move up like that. So I move my chaff up to block his iron guts, and move my Bloodletters up aggressively behind that. If he doesn't charge me, I can double charge. Right now, I'm in pretty easy charge range with my Bloodletters. If he charges into my Furies, I'll be even more assured of getting the charge, which is good. And if he decides not to charge, I can still at least take the charge or adjust my chaff to redirect him even more severely. Otherwise, my Bloodthirster comes onto the table and kind of goes right there, once again behind impassable terrain from the Iron Blaster, just in case I fail to make the overrun or if my Skull Cannon fails to kill his Iron Blaster outright. Shooting phase, I didn't have a picture for this, but basically my Skull Cannon took a shot at his Iron Blaster. I was torn between shooting at his Iron Blaster and shooting at his General, but I decided why take risks. I was going to see if I could hit his Iron Blaster, maybe take it off, or at least do a couple wounds, make it an easier job for my Fleshhounds. So I shot at him, hit, wounded, and did 4 wounds. Then we go to combat. My Fleshhounds kill the Saber Tusk and overrun. They make the 4 inch overrun into the flank of the Iron Blaster. So that thing's basically dead at this point. Ogre's turn 2. So he has this charge here. He needs a 10 to get his bulls into my Skull Cannon. So it's a little bit risky, but he takes it. I guess hoping to swing for the fences here. I mean, it's one of those things that if he fails it, it's not a huge deal. He'll lose a couple inches, but not many. And he'll still be closing to my lines like he wants to. It's not going to be that far out of position. If he makes it, it's game-breaking, because not only is he now behind me, my Bloodthirster is basically forced to charge his bulls. He can challenge out, and that's basically isolating my Bloodletters for him to hit them with the Iron Guts and double-team them. So that was a pretty good move to take that risk, but it didn't pay out for him, so he ended up failing the charge. He also charged with the, why do I keep forgetting their name? The Iron Guts into the Furies, taking the chaff, which I think was a mistake, but what can you do? And yeah, the Iron Guts obviously made it, and the Bulls, as I said, failed. Otherwise, the Lead Belchers moved up to get a clean shot at something of mine, and he moves up to go within 1 inch of the back of this Bull unit. He can't join the unit, obviously, because they failed to charge, but he can at least be within 1 inch to get the 4-up lookout, sir. For being close. Get within 3 inches. Shooting phase is Lead Belchers open up on my Skull Cannon, and they were able to sneak 2 wounds through my armor and my ward save. And in combat, with only 1 wound left, yeah, it was kind of pretty expected that my Fleshhounds do at least 1 wound and take off the Iron Blaster. And they reform to face the rear of his Slaughtermaster, or of his Butcher rather. And then keep forgetting their name. The Iron Guts. Yes, that's it. The Iron Guts then obviously take off the Furies, no problems at all. But now they're nice close charge range for my Bloodletters. So in my turn 2, the Bloodthirster can see around the impassable terrain and into his bulls, so I take that charge. And the Fleshhounds obviously charge into the rear of his Butcher. And then here, yeah, so it was just off of the corner of my vision for the Skull Cannon, so I took the charge for the Skull Cannon and the Fleshhounds, and the Bloodletters. Bloodletters didn't need much, they needed like a 6. The Skull Cannon needed a little bit more, but both of them made it pretty well, which is nice. And then, yeah, in combat, the Fleshhounds, I did 1 or 2 wounds between that charge and rear. He was testing on leadership low. He failed, and I ran him down. And then in combat, I think he kind of saw the writing on the wall in this unit. He didn't even bother challenging, and he just kind of took the unit off the table. He didn't really even bother making me roll it. And then we just go to this combat. He's kind of, getting ready to pretty much expecting to throw in the game at the end of this turn. So we just roll this out. My Skull Cannon does a couple impact hits, and I get back both of my wounds that he did with his Lead Belchers, which is just crazy that my Skull Cannon is able to heal itself. And then in the rest of combat, my Bloodletters account for a whole bunch of wounds. He's down to only 3 guys. He does a couple back. He actually whiffed pretty epically on his 2 hit rolls. And then I made a couple ward saves. He only ended up dropping 1 Bloodletter. He was on Snake Eyes at the end of combat, and he failed, and I successfully caught him. So after that, he just called the game. I mean, he's got 1 unit left. So looking at it backwards, what could he have done differently? I mean, I've analyzed my losses, but how about analyzing my wins and what my opponent could do differently? Well, I think one thing he could do is, in this situation, charging the Furies is obviously a terrible decision. There's really not a great way out of this. I think he kind of had 2 options of 2 things to change that could have improved his outcome. One thing he could have done was charge the Lead Belchers into the flank of the Furies. That does a couple things. First of all, it prevents his Iron Guts from being out of position, which is obviously huge for him, given that they are one of the things that I'm most worried about in my opponent's army. So it'll basically prevent them from drawing themselves out, getting into that easy charge range of the Bloodletters. Second of all, after he kills the Furies with the Lead Belchers, he's now, if I charge him with my Bloodletters, now my Bloodletters are out of position. And I'll probably break his Lead Belchers, but if I do that, I can't pursue him. If I pursue him, I'm opening up my flank to the Iron Guts, which is just a death sentence. If I don't pursue and reform, at least it's a front, but I'm still probably going to lose. So it basically would have cleared the chaff, and it would have forced me to slow down, forced me to reassess, and basically just overall put a lot more pressure on me, not give me the easy redirect and counter charge that I had set up here. Anyway, that's what I think he could have done. Any comments or questions on the battle report, please post them in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time.